So one of the things that's happening today is that today connected individuals can now accomplish what once only centralized large organizations could. That's huge. It's huge for how we think about leadership, it's huge for how we think about power, it's huge for how we even think about our careers. Because if you can actually do work and not have to be part of the man and the establishment, value creation is not tied to a job in particular, it's not tied to an organization. And organizations now have to compete with 3-person teams from around the world. And so it changes competitive advantage. "40 years ago, the competitive advantage arc of how long you could actually hold an advantage was 40 years. And so people used to really think about business as, I would own this turf, I would control my customer. And of course, advantages have been proven today to drop from 40 years to 5 in fast-moving industries, which means it's no longer about control or about how do you actually lock in something, but more about how do you move from one advantage to another. The biggest lesson that every leader needs to have for the social era is how do you listen loudly, which means how do you have a whole bunch of players out in the world and actually let them shape your policy and direction? How do you let them inform your point of view? How do you actually listen so much? Because it's not empowerment in the classic sense, because that's me giving power to you. They already have power. Then it's figuring out how do I listen to your point of view and perspective enough to know if what we're doing is still the right thing. Culture changes when one person changes. And so how do you start to affect the larger group? By speaking up and speaking your own truth, by inviting other people to do the same, to ask for more power, right? So how do you just decide that you will start to be part of the change? Because nothing ever changes until you do. So what really stops people from being only the thing that they can do is they're afraid that they won't have a tribe to belong to, right? And so they're afraid that if they are part of a team that they sit next to and they rock the boat, that all of a sudden they'll be all alone in the world. They'll lose their job or they'll be in some way disassociated. And belonging is the deepest need that we humans have, besides food and stuff. It's like the very, very deepest sociological need. And so we have to figure out, how do we find another group that we belong to? And how do we relate to people not based on sitting next to each other, but our purpose? And that's the amazing thing about the internet, that's actually letting us find connectivity and finding the people who are more like us. And they're not necessarily the people that are near us. I make so many mistakes, and the only thing that makes me courageous is I'm willing to make the next mistake. I'm willing to say, I don't know yet, I don't know how, but I'm gonna sit here and just show up in the arena of life and then see what happens. And as long as I show up, that's my promise to myself. Show up, do the best you can. Is it the absolute best? You know, time will tell, right? And so judgment comes later. First, it's this act. And I think sometimes we're so self-judgmental, like, well, I have to get it right the first time. Do you really? And if we can stop judging ourselves more, I think we're gonna step into a more courageous space.